There's been a lot written about the movies of Miyazaki, but what about the man fueling this work? What was he like when he was younger? When you hear quotes like, "I was an overly self-conscious boy, and I had a hard time holding my own in fights with others," it's like finding a gem, because it's so rare to learn anything about his younger life. What helped him find his vision in the movies he was to make? I would love to know what made him the man he is today. It's surprisingly hard to find, but I also want to just kind of steal him and make him my permanent grandpa. I mean, look at the man. He's like a little ball of sunshine. How could you not love him? Look at him. Look at him. So cute. But seriously, there's a glow about Miyazaki, like you see in the eyes of a lot of geniuses that have mastered their craft. I think it comes from years of reflecting on what it means to be human. It's years of trying to dissect and understand the human condition, which is part of why I find Miyazaki such an incredible human. He sees humanity for what it is. Not always good, not always bad, but usually somewhere in between. What is funny is most of the time he doesn't even realize he's doing it. Seriously, watch some of the interviews. He touches on such complex subjects, like they're things that everybody should know. This shows what innate empathic abilities he has as an artist. I think this is what allows us to have compassion for the hardest to love, because we see most of them aren't really different from us, and they quite honestly need love the most. This is what a lot of his movies explore, intentionally or not. I think in dissecting masters, you learn how to become more human, because they, after all, have mastered the art of communication in very peculiar ways. Now, I won't go into his movies or his technique. I'm more interested in the man and what made him. Let's take a deeper dive and learn who the man was and how he became who he is now. Hayao grew up in a world probably hard for most of us to imagine, a post-war Japan. He remembers bombs going off in nearby cities. This clearly seems to affect his later work. His father was a rudder maker, working at a company owned by Hayao's uncle, where they built Zero fighter planes for World War II. There were certain events in his early life which seemingly affected him profoundly. During World War II, he had been watching daily bombings, and when a chemical bomb hit the ground just a few miles away, he shuddered as each one hit nearby towns and cities. He recalls his mother taking him outside and putting him in a big posh car and told the driver to go. Hayao looked back and saw people begging to come with them. He could clearly see the car had plenty of room and they were out of range of the chemical bombs, but his parents and the driver were not stopping. When seeing some of what he went through, you can see now why he would say things like, "Creating animations means creating a fictional world. That world soothes the spirit of those who are disheartened and exhausted from dealing with the sharp edges of reality." Thinking about growing up in a world like that is a bit far removed from our lives, I would think. I also imagine it is part of what drives him and gives his movies such depth. His family eventually moved to Utsunomiya City to escape the bombings of Tokyo and to be closer to Miyazaki's airplane factory in Kunuma City. The move fueled discussion with his father about his disdain for war and the morals of his company. He was clearly torn about making machines which caused death and destruction. It also likely spawned Nausicaa, but at the same time, it's where he got his familiarity with the forest and inspired things like My Neighbor Totoro. Speaking of Totoro, fun fact, the reason Totoro's eyes are so big is he didn't want you to know which direction he was looking, if he was thinking of nothing, as an idiot, or in deep thought. This dualism runs throughout his movies, whether it's the IQ of Totoro, or if Lady Ibayoshi really is evil. He's always keeping us guessing. Some nights, he imagined his body skimming the clouds above the cities of Utsunomiya and Kunuma, probably to escape the reality of the situation he was in, especially considering some of the nights the magic would cut out and he would start falling towards the earth, which sounds oddly like Mary and the Witch's Flower. Even though he didn't direct that film, it does seem some of his personality might have slipped into the new studio. From a really young age, he was interested in manga. When he dreamed of becoming a manga author, as well as becoming a hero, they might have honestly been the same thing in his eyes. He studied the works of Osamu Tezuka, the creator of Astro Boy, when manga and Japanese comic books started to gain popularity after the war. But being a perfectionist, he destroyed most of his early works because he thought it might be too similar to the other artists. This shows his relentless courage to always be creating something new and fresh. He definitely isn't the kind of man that rests on his laurels. In 1947, his mother got sick with spinal tuberculosis. So for 9 long years, you can see it wasn't exactly pleasant for her. A reality I am sure 6 to 15-year-old Hayao was very aware of. At the age of 6, Hayao started elementary at the institution in Tsunomiya City, and later moved to various other schools, such as Ifuku Elementary School and Omiya Junior High. His father loved the cinema. He took Hayao to see films by the great directors of the time, Ozu and Mizoguchi, as well as other European films as well. He remembers seeing Desika's Bicycle Thieves, Bresson's Diary of the Country Priest, Foida's Ash and Diamonds, and more. When Hayao was 11, he was already interested in manga. He says he was a physically weak child. He read a lot of books, and he wanted to become a strong hero. When reflecting on Mira Shonen Conan, he's quoted saying, "It seemed to me that most boys are about 11 when they start imagining themselves as the heroes in the story, where they have the traditional roles like saving the princess, etc. So that's why I made Conan 11, which seems to be a strong reflection on his own life around that time." He's also quoted in saying, "I wanted to have a young protagonist who takes over from a failed generation of older guys." This seems to be a reflection on some of his upbringing and possibly his struggle with how he saw the prior generation handle situations. Hayao graduated from Omiya Junior High, and he went on to Toyotama High, a public senior high school. In his 3rd year, he sees the first ever Japanese full-length color anime, Hakujojen, and becomes interested in animation. While still at Toyotama High, he stumbles upon The Tale of the White Serpent, or also called Panda and the Magic Serpent, where he becomes enchanted by the actress and movie. Though he eventually found it a sham after repeatedly watching it, and he came up with his guiding principle for all of his work: to watch good animation and to make something that surpasses it. A formula so simple it's profound. At the time, his ambition was to become a manga artist, and he was sketching what he describes as an absurdist drama. But the purity and the emotion in The Tale of the White Serpent moved him to tears. He says, "It made me realize what a fool I was," he wrote 2 decades later. "Despite the words of distrust I spoke, I yearned for an earnest and pure world. I could no longer deny the fact that I wanted to make something life-affirming." Hayao loved animation, but he was also practical, so he started his higher education at Gakushin University, and in 1963 received his degree in political science and economics, hoping to use his knowledge to help Japan re-establish its economy and recover from the war. But his love for animation and stories persisted. While still at college, he joined the Children's Literature Research Society, which taught him about fables and tales from all around the world. In 1963, he graduated, but instead of going into politics or academics, he joined the animation studio Toei Cine, where he met his lifelong friend and collaborators, along with Isao Takahata, while later becoming a co-founder of Ghibli, as well as his future wife, Akemi. He then worked on films such as Gulliver's Travels, Beyond the Moon, Flying Phantom Ship, and Animal Treasure Island. Miyazaki started by drawing fill-in frames between keyframes. Shortly after, he was promoted to the animation department and even got to dabble in writing. He also became involved in the Animators Union, which allowed him to work on Hull's Prince of the Sun with Toei Animation, which remains a landmark film in the animation history, with its innovative new techniques and commentary on political climate. There are so many great stories about Hayao, but I think one of my favorites is how he shows a deep sympathy for humans. Their area often gets flooded, and when they rebuilt their house, they had the option to build it higher, but instead, they left it where it was at the same height, so they could flood with the rest of everybody else. This seems crazy to most people, but he feels a solidarity with everyone. When they all go through the same thing together, he feels better, and just feels it's the right thing to do. His culture, no doubt, ends up influencing his work. His use of ma was without a doubt an effect of his upbringing in Japanese culture, where philosophies like wabi-sabi are ingrained in the art and literature. If you're interested in learning more, I talk about it in my other video here. And I'll also link it in the bottom. There are moments of bliss that him and other directors like Mamoru Oshii understand almost painfully well. It's in these moments of silence that we and the character make sense of their situation and don't necessarily feel the need to act right away. I think we all could learn something from this. The characters focus on more attainable goals of empathetic conclusion instead of permanent solutions to their problems, because sometimes that's all you can do. It's hilarious to me that he's so honest sometimes. Most people that are as well regarded as him often make up elaborate explanations for why they did this or why they did that, but there's a certain simplicity to Miyazaki's nature that doesn't allow him to give into this Hollywood style of thinking. And it's really refreshing, honestly. A great example is when he was asked why in one of his movies there really isn't a good versus evil dichotomy you would see in most movies. And he simply replies, "Drawing evil characters is draining on an artist, so I decided to stay away from them." You would have expected some deeper Shinto-related explanation of how not all humans are one way or another way, and that there's hope for every human. But nope. Miyazaki, he just really doesn't want to draw them, that's all. Hayao's an amazing leader of creativity and should be treasured. I think we need entire generations of his personality, and hopefully this video sheds some light on how he became who he is. Alright. Now before anybody jumps down my throat, I spent a lot of time sifting through poorly translated videos, interviews, and pretty much every article written about Miyazaki, so some of it might just simply be poorly translated. If anything is incorrect, please let me know, and I'll try to amend it. I hope you enjoyed this video, so please like and subscribe if you did. It took a lot of effort to put together, so I'd really appreciate it if you did. And also apologize if I didn't pronounce things right. I probably changed it halfway through the video. I'm not an expert at Japanese, but I try to do my best. So sorry if I pronounced something wrong. I'm almost positive I did, but yeah. Alright, I'll see you guys next time.